Hi everyone, so we're going to be talking about how to solve systems of equations with a table. Let's start by just talking about what a systems of equations is. It's when we have two different equations. In this case they're linear, meaning there's one x and one y, and we're looking for where they meet or where they intersect or where they have the same answer, and that would be the solution. So in these we're going to have two numbers for our solution. We're going to have an x equals number and a y equals number for our solution. There are several different ways that we can solve systems of equations, but one of the easiest ways is to do it with a table, and so that's what we're going to start with. So for the first example, they give you we have two equations. Y is equal to 4x plus 4 and y is equal to 3x plus 4. So y is equal to 4x plus 4, y is equal to 3x plus 4. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in some numbers for x and the same exact numbers for each of the equations and decide and figure out what the y would be. If I plugged in a number for x, solve for y, and we're going to fill out the entire table for both of these. Once we fill out both of these tables, we should, if we did it right, have a row that matches in both of the tables, and that row that matches will be our answer. So let's try it. So I'm going to start with the first table on this first example, y equals 4x plus 4. What I'm going to do is replace the x in the equation with my numbers in my x column. So the first one I'm going to replace with is negative 2. So it's going to be 4 times negative 2, because I'm replacing the x with negative 2, plus 4. And we can just use a calculator for that, but 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, plus 4 gives me a negative 4. So what I'm going to do is write a negative 4 in the y column right next to the negative 2, because when x is equal to negative 2, y is equal to negative 4. Now I'm going to do it with negative 1. So 4 times negative 1 plus 4, well, that gives me 0. Now I'm going to do it with 0. 4 times 0 plus 4 would give me 4. Now we'll do it with 1. 4 times 1 plus 4 gives me 8. And then 4 times 2 plus 4 gives me 12. Okay, so that's the first table. We've got it all filled out. Now we're going to do the same thing, the same thing with the second equation. So I'm going to say y is equal to 3x plus 4, but now I'm going to replace the x with the same numbers, but fill out the second table. So the first one, we're going to replace the x with negative 2. So we get y is equal to 3 times negative 2 plus 4. 3 times negative 2 gives me negative 6, plus 4 gives me negative 2. Then we're going to replace the x with negative 1. So 3 times negative 1 plus 4 will give me 1. When I replace the x with a 0, I should get 4. When I replace it with 1, I should get 7. And then when I replace it with 2, I should get 10. So now we have both of the tables filled out. And what we're going to do is look for the row that matches in both of the tables. And the row in this case is right here, the 0, 4. Because in each of them, when x is equal to 0, then y is equal to 4, which means that's our solution. So my solution to this is that x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 4. That's where those two equations intersect, I totally wrote that wrong, but this should say 4. So that's our solution, and both of those numbers have to be there for our solution to make sense. We have to have an x equals number and a y equals number. All right, let's try the second example. So the second example, let me write the equations, are y is equal to 5x minus 10 and y is equal to x minus 2. And we're going to do it the exact same way. Notice this time you have different numbers in your x column, but it should still work. So I'm going to start with the first column, the 5x minus 10. I'm going to replace the x with 0, which will give me negative 10. And once again, you can definitely use these, just plug them inside your calculator. Make sure when you're replacing the x with a number that you put it in the number in parentheses, or else sometimes it won't work. Sometimes the order of operations in a calculator gets messy, so you want to replace the x. When you replace replace the x, you want to put it in the number in parentheses. Okay, now when I replace it with 1, I would have 5 minus 10, which gives me negative 5. When I replace it with 2, I'd get 0. With 3, I'd get 5, and then with 4, I'd get 10. And then we're going to do it to the second table. So when this one is y is equal to x minus 2, I'm going to replace the x with 0, so I get negative 2. Then I get negative 1. Then I get 0, 1, and 2. Now we're going to look for where it matches up, and it matches up right here because both of those have an x for 2 for x and a 0 for y. So my answer is x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 0. Once again, you need both of those in order to have a full answer. All right, so now let's look at the third example. On the third example, we have y is equal to negative 6x plus 6 and y is equal to negative 3x. And in this case, they didn't actually give us any of the x's, right? So this is like a guess and check sort of situation. Normally, I'm going to tell you they're somewhere between -5 and +5, but that's a bigger range than what you have on your table. So you want to guess, and if you guess wrong or if none of them match up, then you have to guess again with your x's. So on this one, what I'm going to do is just use the same, let's say that I use the same as the first example. So I'd have -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and you want to make sure they're the same on both of the tables. That way you can figure out which row matches up. Okay, so once again, let's start it up. We're going to start with that first equation, the negative 6x plus 6, when I replace the x with -2. And like I told you in the parentheses, I just want to write it out for you. So when I replace the x with a -2, what I'm going to do in the calculator is write -6 and then parenthesis -2, close parenthesis plus 6. So this part goes in my calculator, and that should give me an answer of 18. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but now replace the x with -1, which gives me 12. Then I'm going to replace it with 0, which gives me 6. Then 1, which gives me 0, and then 2, which gives me -6. Then we're going to do it for the second equation, which is just -3x, which means we're just multiplying everything by -3. So I'd get 6, 3, 0, -3, and -6. Now let's look and see if we have a match, and we do, and it's at the very bottom right here. So my solution to this equation would be x is equal to 2 and y is equal to -6. Now, like I said, if you guess the wrong numbers for your x's, you could then say, well, it's not in that range, so let's try different numbers for x's. And you can just continue the table down if you want, or up, or you can erase the table that you have and add new numbers to your x columns. Okay, let's look at example 4. And example 4, we're going to go, mostly because I already know the answer, but we're going to go a little bit more negative on this one. So I'm going to start with -5. I'm going to say -5, -4, -3, -2, and -1 on each of them. Remember, we have to keep them the same. That way we can figure out which one matches. And then, let me write the equations. We have y is equal to 4x plus 8, and y is equal to -3x minus 13. All right, so once again, let's start with our first table. We're going to replace the x with -5, so 4 times -5 plus 8 gives me -12. Then 4 times -4 plus 8 gives me -8. Then we replace it with -3, which should give me a -4, a -2, which would give me a 0, and then -1, which gives me -4. Oh, no, wait, sorry, +4. That was my fault. +4. All right, now let's do the second equation. So when I replace the x with -5, it's -3 times -5 minus 13, which gives me 2. When I replace it with -4, I'd get -3 times -4 minus 13, which gives me -1. When I replace it with -3, I would get -4, and then -7, and -10. Sorry, that one was a little bit harder for me to do. So now we're going to look for where it matches up, and it matches up right here. So once again, lucky guess that it was already in there, which means my answer is x is equal to -3 when y is equal to -4. And there we have it, how to solve systems of equations with the table.